The difference between a key pose and an extreme pose, let me put it this way. An extreme pose could be a key pose, and a key pose can be an extreme pose, but they don't have to be. An extreme pose is a pose that is at the most extreme. It's the highest up, it's the lowest low, it's the most out, most extended, most compressed. It's where the body of the character or whatever you're animating is at its most extreme. This gives you the peaks. So if you think of a bouncing ball, the extreme poses are the contact and the peaks, the lowest points and the highest points. If you think of a pendulum swing, the extremes are furthest right, furthest left. Those are extremes. If you think of a walk, it's the up and down poses in the walk, most extremes. So those can be key poses, but they don't necessarily have to be. A key pose is typically a pose that we put into our animation that will be key to describing the motion and the story. It doesn't necessarily have to describe the action per se, but it describes kind of a greater whole. Now, that's very subjective. Every animator uses this in different ways, but at least for me, the way I think of keys is they are the linchpins. They are the parts of the animation that if I take this away, the audience won't understand what's going on. If I put that in, they'll get it. And you can kind of keep breaking that down and like going finer and finer, but that's kind of the broad overview. So an extreme pose can be a key pose and vice versa, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. For example, if my head, I'm looking over here and I'm going to turn over there, I've got two keys. Key here, key there. Okay, now those could be my extremes if that's the most range I have on the head turn. But if I have my key here and then turn my head further away and then go, well, now my extreme becomes this pose where I anticipate and then go. Or if I'm kind of on the side here and I'm going to move over here, it's going to be, this could be my key, and then this is my key. Those could both be my extremes if that's, again, the range I go. But if I go here, anticipate, and then go, my extreme is over here, is the furthest pose I go to. And that could be a key, or it could be a breakdown. It depends on how I approach the animation. So I hope that makes sense in that case. Now, an extreme is an overshoot in certain ways, but an extreme doesn't have to be an overshoot. So, for example, if I punch forward, my hand could stop right there. Just whoop, stop. That is still the extreme pose. It is the furthest that the hand moved. But, yeah, I agree. The music is really nice today. Mega Man, always a great choice. So, if you go like that, that's the extreme pose. But there's not an overshoot, it's just the furthest that the hand traveled. Now, Masani, thank you so much for this. Oh, geez. Thank you so much. 7 months. Jeez. Wow. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Also, hello. Hope you're doing well. So, as it punches, that could be extreme. But I could also do this. So now, my overshoot is that motion. And my extreme is also way over here, not over here. So that now becomes the same. The extreme is the overshoot. I hope that makes sense. It's really just, when we're talking about extremes, it's the most something of the pose. Biggest, smallest, highest, lowest, furthest, closest. And then the overshoots and the keys are describing something a little bit more kind of specific in terms of animation. So yeah, I hope that helps. And if you have any questions on that, definitely let me know. And also just keep in mind that, and this goes for everyone here, terminology in animation is vague. So, for example, the way I talk about keys, breakdowns, and in-betweens will be different than another studio. So if the studio I'm working at, they'll use this terminology. Another studio, they might flip what breakdowns and in-betweens are. Or they might use keys as like what I would consider storytelling keys. Storytelling keys for me are like before you put in all the keyframes in your animation, you have the storytelling keys, which are just the poses in the animation which will describe the entire story at its most rudimentary form. And if you can get that, usually that's 8 to 12 poses for a whole shot. Usually you don't have more than that. If you have more than that, then the story starts to get a little complicated. But yeah, this also applies to like any terminology in animation. Like some people use ease in, ease out. Some people use slow in, slow out. People use fast in, fast out. It's all the same thing, really. Or when you work at a studio, what gets really confusing is the positions always change. So you'll have a junior animator, a lead animator, a regular animator, a senior animator. You're going to have a supervising animator. A supervising animator in one studio could be what a lead animator is in another one. It could be what a regular animator is in another studio. The terminology there's not like a fine structure, and this is what it is, and everyone applies it the same way. So yeah, key artist NPC is senior animator. Yeah, exactly. So you're going to have different terminology, and that's okay. As long as it makes sense to you. That's the important bit. As long as you have a structure that you can use and go, okay, I know what I want to do and how to approach it. That's really what the terms are for.